Good morning. Whether you are here in person or watching at home, it's good to be with you this morning. It's good for us all to be together. As we gather this morning, let me share with you words from Barbara Pescan. Often we are found in our grief and comforted, calmed by some kindness, brought alive again by beauty that catches us undefended. Even when the sun is most thin and far, even at the hour the storm is at its height, we can go through. Renewal nests within sorrow. Love abides even beyond anger, beyond death. We are held in an embrace invisible but infinite, moving with all creation between wholeness and fragmentation, moving always towards the one. Small joys and great sorrows pass, and we, with steps uncertain, move on to whatever is next, but continually seen, heard, held by life, infinite and remote, intimate and abiding. Love, do not let us go. Amen. Come, my friends, with our hearts open to both challenges and possibilities that this new day and week bring, with our hearts open to all that inspires, sustains, redeems, and transforms us. Come, let us worship together.
I'm not alone, I'm not alone, I'm not alone, I'm not alone.
Thank you very much. The flaming chalice is the symbol of the Unitarian Universalist tradition, the liberal religious tradition to which this congregation belongs. Will those of you here in person please stand as you're able for our chalice lighting? If you have a chalice at home, I invite you to light it with us at this time. Please read along with me. As we kindle this flame, we recommit ourselves to nurturing the spirits of one another and the common good of the world we share. May the light of this flame be welcoming to all who seek a liberal religious home. For those of you already standing, I invite you to remain standing for our opening hymn, which is number 100. I've got peace like a river. Good morning. My name is Warren Keyes, and I'm glad to serve as part of your worship team this morning, as well as part of your UUFR Board of Directors. Whether you are a first-time visitor or a long-time member, I offer you a special welcome. Here at the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Raleigh, we are intentionally inclusive, liberally religious, and actively seeking the common good of our shared world. Whoever you are, and wherever you are on your own religious journey, you are certainly welcome here. Visiting us for the first time? I invite you to stop by our welcome stand in the foyer right behind us if you haven't already done so. There you can fill out our visitor form, get a name tag, and pick up one of our Guide to UUFR pamphlets so you can find out more about UUFR and Unitarian Universalism. If you're visiting us online, I invite you to fill out our form at uufr.org/visitor-form. When you do this, you'll start receiving our weekly e-newsletter, The Chalice. This morning, Will Smith, one of our lay ministers, will be available in the front right corner of the sanctuary. He'll be there right after the service to talk with anyone who might be experiencing any difficult circumstances in their lives and would like to talk with someone about that. Now, I hope all of you will read through the chalice that was emailed on Friday. You'll find out about everything happening here around UUFR, and it is a lot. Or you can do that by checking out the upcoming events section on our website. Following this morning's service will be our in-person social hour downstairs in Founders Hall. As a member of the board, I'll be there to chat with you about anything on your mind about board activities. And now we have a special announcement from the nominating committee.
Good morning. My name is Sarah Grover, and I'm a member of the nominating committee. On Thursday, an email went out to all members of UUFR briefly explaining the ministerial search process to find a new leader who will start in 2026. One of the first steps is forming a search team that will be elected by a congregational vote next year. The email provided a link to an online survey in which members can recommend up to 3 people to be considered for the search team. Please complete the form no later than November 8th. If you aren't comfortable with a digital survey, or if you think you missed out on the email, we will be available with paper copies in the small office across from the kitchen downstairs at the coffee hours today and tomorrow. That's both services. Your input is very important in forming a search team that has our respect and trust. Thanks.
Oh, it's on now. I now invite you to meet and greet your neighbor.
I invite you to come back together. I invite you to come back together now. I invite you to come back together now and continue your conversations at coffee hour. This is the time in our service when we acknowledge some of the joys and sorrows in our community. We do this because we believe a joy shared is a joy made greater, and a sorrow shared is made easier to bear. Anyone is invited to fill out our joys and sorrows form on the front page of our website or in the chalice by midnight on the Saturday preceding Sunday's services. Anyone may also light a candle before the service, and if they wish, fill out one of our cards by hand so that their joy or sorrow can be shared with the congregation. Our hearts are with Pat Butler, whose husband Bob passed away this past Monday. Tom Atkinson would like us to know that he has been diagnosed with bone cancer and that he is thankful that the prognosis is good. Elle and Eli share their concerns for their friend and neighbor John, who has had another stroke. They hope that he will recover. I would also like to share the great joy that this year's auction was a success and brought in over $25,000. Our profound thanks to a dedicated auction committee, auctioneer extraordinaire David Ostergaard, generous donors, and most of all, enthusiastic support from our UU Fellowship of Raleigh community. As we hold these shared joys and sorrows in our hearts and reflect on the joys, sorrows, fears, and hopes of our own lives, let's be together in stillness and silence, opening ourselves up to that spirit within us and amidst us, called by many names but known to every human heart, that leads us to a fuller, deeper, richer experience of life. After the silence, we'll sing hymn 1002 in the Teal hymnal, Comfort Me. But for now, let's be together in stillness and silence.
Everything we do here at UUFR is only possible because of the generous financial support so many of us provide. For those of you who have set up automated giving to UUFR, who send in a check by mail every month, we thank you for your generosity. If you'd like to make a contribution in person this morning, I invite you to bring it forward and put it in one of our offering plates. If you would prefer to have an usher come to you, just raise your hand. You may also give using one of the methods that will appear on our screen. Our offering now will be given and gratefully received. Today's reading is titled Blessing for the Brokenhearted, written by Jan Richardson. Let us agree for now that we will not say the breaking makes us stronger, or that it is better to have this pain than to have done without this love. Let us promise we will not tell ourselves time will heal the wound when every day our waking opens it anew. Perhaps for now it can be enough to simply marvel at the mystery of how a heart so broken can go on beating, as if it were made for precisely this. As if it knows the only cure for love is more of it. As if it sees the heart's sole remedy for breaking is to love still. As if it trusts that its own persistent pulse is the rhythm of a blessing we cannot begin to fathom, but will save us nonetheless.
May my tears water a sapling, may my life support its growth, may I walk with care and healing for new life upon the earth. May our breath move with the Spirit, flowing free around the earth. May we listen to the sunshine and feel the moon reflect our worth. May my tears water a sapling, may my life support its growth. May I walk with care and healing for new life upon the earth. May our breath move my tears water a sapling. May my life support its growth. May I walk with care and healing for new life upon the earth. May our breath move with the Spirit, flowing free around the earth. May we listen to the sunshine and feel the moon reflect our worth. May my tears water a sapling. May my life support its growth. May I walk with care and healing for new life upon the earth. May my breath move with the Spirit, flowing free around the earth. May we listen to the sunshine and feel the moon reflect our worth.
Thank you so much. That was beautiful. This Thursday, many of us here in the U.S., especially our children, will celebrate Halloween. In fact, some of our children may still be on sugar high from trunk and treat yesterday that was held in our parking lot. The costumes, the candy, the other treats, the parties, they're all a great way to mark this season of the year. For us in the North, the end of October is about halfway between the beginning of fall and the beginning of winter. While I don't consider myself a pagan, I love the Celtic pagan calendar that celebrates the halfway points between the seasons more than the equinoxes and solstices themselves. The Celts call this time of year Samhain, and for the Celts, this is New Year's Eve, since November 1st is the first day of their year. By this time of year, the fields have been harvested, and so families would know exactly what they had to get through the coming year, the coming winter. Reflecting what they saw as the leaves fell from the trees, then the plants died and went dormant around them. Samhain was when the Celts believed that the veil between the land of the living and the land of the dead was the thinnest. Samhain was when ghosts of the dead would visit the living. So the Celts would wear costumes and light bonfires to protect themselves from the ghosts they feared. And they would prepare feasts to remember those who had died, to welcome the ghosts of those they longed to see. The Aztecs and other indigenous peoples had their own rituals to remember those who had died and to honor and protect themselves from their spirits. When Christians, explorers, and colonists settled in what is now Ireland and Mexico and many other places, they replaced indigenous rituals and practices with religious holidays they named All Hallows Eve, All Saints' Day, or All Souls' Day. 2 or 3 centuries ago, it was difficult to deny the reality of death. Today, in the U.S., with advances in medicine and nutrition, and with more and more people living in urban spaces far away from farms and the natural world, today, when death comes, it can be a shock. While I don't think that the people from centuries ago grieved any less when a loved one died than we do today, I do wonder, however, if our modern society has forgotten how to grieve. Next Sunday will be the remembrance ritual we hold here at the UU Fellowship of Raleigh every year. This ritual of remembrance is one way we grieve together as a community. With rituals of grieving, we create a space to remember those we have lost and remember that we all experience grief. Memorial services and funerals are another important way to grieve as a community, to tell the story of the person who has died, to support each other in our communal loss, to comfort those who are most affected by the loss. But what are some other ways to acknowledge and express grief? The song we just heard about tears watering a sapling reminds us of the transformative power of sorrow, of crying and grieving. During Roman times, mourners would cry their tears into a little bottle, cork the bottle, and leave the bottle in the tomb of their loved one to remind them of their love. Later, people would keep these tear bottles in their homes and believe that when the tears evaporated from the bottle, the mourning period would be complete. Rituals can be important after profound losses in our lives and the transitions in life that come with them. Some of us may have heard of Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's 5 stages of grief, which are denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. The fact that these are presented as stages might lead us to believe that these stages of grief should happen in this order, one stage giving way to the next. Kubler-Ross didn't intend for these stages to reflect everyone's experience of grief or even the experience of the bereaved. They were developed from a series of interviews with people diagnosed with terminal illnesses. The 5 stages reflect the experience of people who are grieving, but they don't represent the full spectrum of people's reactions in the face of loss. People may experience shock, exhaustion, fear, disorientation, and many, many other things. And there is nothing organized about the grieving process. It's less of an orderly journey than a roller coaster. There are many kinds of grief, and every person grieves differently. There's nothing orderly or predictable about grief, and there's no schedule for how long one grieves. When someone we love dies, we miss them. Pictures and gifts might remind us of them. When we do things we used to do with them, they might spark memories of them. For a while, the memories might be painful as we realize the people are gone. Something might happen that we would normally share with our loved one, and then we feel a pang of grief when we remember that the person is no more. I think of these moments of grief as love with nowhere to go. Our thoughts, shared activities, and souvenirs are all ways we feel connected to our loved one, and we feel pain when we can no longer see, touch, feel, hear, or talk with that person, when that person cannot be sensed in the way we are used to sensing them. Often, when we suffer a loss, we grieve other losses at the same time. Identities we hold in association with our loved one who has died, these identities can change. If my spouse dies, my identity as a wife changes or is lost. Death of a parent can change the way you see yourself as a child. If you move to a new country, your identity as a citizen of the country you left might change. When you retire, you might grieve the loss of your identity as a member of the workforce or as someone who makes a livelihood. Even changes in our life that we choose can involve loss and grief. When I got married, while I was happy to become a married person, I grieved my identity as a single person. And despite my efforts to assure my dad that our relationship would not change, he grieved what he saw as losing a daughter. Our identities inform how we see ourselves in and experience the world. And when these identities change, we might gain a new perspective, but we can also lose a sense of who we were. Our connections with coworkers, friends, family, and the world around us changes. When one of our identities change, not of our own choice, such as serious illness or being laid off, it's common to resist these changes. Acceptance may take time. Every one of us has a role in how particular groups function. When someone in our family moves away or dies, the way our family members relate to each other will change. This can happen with a group of friends or a work committee. Part of the grief we feel from the loss of a loved one may be how family holidays, they just don't seem as easy or as fun as they used to. Or how meetings aren't the same without that missing member's passion for music. Even when we're around other people, things may not feel the same, and we may grieve how things used to be. When we build connections with a loved one, it's common to dream together or have hopes about how things will be in the future with them. When we lose that person, some of our grief may come from the loss of our own or a shared hope for the future. A trip that will not happen, a shared desire to see children reach a certain milestone, or even a hope for reconciliation. Death of a loved one can be profoundly disorienting. It can be difficult for us to conceptualize death. How can someone be here with us one moment and be gone the next? How can that absence be so final? For some, a loss can cause us to confront loss of control, fragility, mortality of those we love, and for ourselves. The patterns in our daily lives can be upended, and our minds themselves may not function the way we're used to them functioning. When we grieve the loss of a person in our lives, we grieve many different aspects of that loss. The person, how loss of that person changes how we see ourselves, how loss of that person changes how we experience the world, how loss of that person changes how we interact with others and our hopes for the future. A loss is often not just one loss. It can be multiple losses and multiple layers of grief. The one thing that is true, however, is that if we didn't care about what was lost, we wouldn't grieve. We grieve because we have loved what was lost. We are attached to what was, and we didn't want it to change. We feel pain for what we loved and is no longer. The one constant in life is change, and the one guarantee in life is death. To love is to risk loss. We put our fragile hearts in the care of other fragile beings. Before my husband died, I remember spending a lot of time fearing that he might die. Then he died. After I'd moved through the shock and the worst of the pain, I realized how futile it was to have feared losing him so much. It didn't keep him from dying. It just kept me from being fully present while we were together. We humans have this capacity to think about what might happen in the future. Sometimes we imagine some future loss, and when we do, we can experience fear and what is called anticipatory grief. This is what I felt when I thought of the future possibility of my husband dying. This is part of what I feel when I think about climate change. This is part of what I feel when I think about the upcoming election. I love the snow in the mountains, the towns I visited near the beach, vast Pacific Northwest forests, the sugar maple trees in New England, and polar bears. I love the ideals of democracy, of individual freedom balanced with communal responsibility. The existence of all of these things are threatened. I feel pain that these things could be lost. Yet, I know that it's important to stay present to these things that still are, to love them fully. For love fuels compassion, and compassion leads us to want to protect what we love. It's important to love fully, to do what I can to prevent the loss of what I love, to grieve when things are lost, and resolve to keep loving fully not just what was lost, but also what remains and becomes. I don't want to gloss over the fact that grief can be all-consuming. It can bring us to moments of sheer survival, when breathing itself becomes the only act of hope possible. And when time passes, when the body moves through the shock, when our life has expanded to hold the grief, joy can return. For when our heart gets broken open, we can realize that the borderline between joy and sorrow is whisper thin. When we face a loss, when we realize how fragile we are, how not in control we are, when our sense of what is important can shift in a split second, when we are ready, how can we not feel joy that we loved? How can we not feel joy that beauty still exists, that birds still sing, that flowers still bloom? How can we not revel in the fact that our broken hearts can still love? Life has changed, and still love remains. Our hearts were built to love, and to love they must, even in the face of impermanence, especially in the face of impermanence. The only way through grief is to go through it with all of its loop-de-loops and waves and tears. Eventually, our life can build around the grief, making it easier to bear. The grief remains, making itself known now and again. And when it does, I remember that it belongs. I have loved. I have lost. I will lose again, and I love still. Earlier, Warren read a blessing written by Jan Richardson. I would like to close with another one of her poems called The Cure for Sorrow. Because I do not know any medicine for grief, but to let ourselves grieve. Because I do not know any cure for sorrow, but to let ourselves sorrow. Because I do not know any remedy, but to let the heart break, to let it fall open, then let it fall open still more. Because I do not know how to mend the unmendable, unfixable, unhealable wound that keeps finding itself healed as we tend it, as we follow the line of it, as we let it lead us on the path it knows. Because I do not know any solace but to give ourselves into the love that will never cease to find us, that will never loose its hold on us, that will never abandon us to the sorrow for which it holds the cure. May it be so. And now I invite you to stand as you are able for our closing hymn, which is 128, For All That Is Our Life.
each other serve, for services we give, for work and its rewards, for hours of rest and love, we come with praise and thanks. For all that is our life, for sorrow we must bear, for failures, pain, and loss, for each new thing we learn, for fearful hours that pass, we come with praise and thanks. For all that is our life, for all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift which we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad.
You may be seated. As we end this time of worship together, I would like to share words written by Gary Kowalski. With faith to face our challenges, with love that casts out fear, with hope to trust tomorrow, may we accept this day as the gift it is, a reason for rejoicing. Amen.